And people ask me, when's the best time to drink champagne? The answer is first thing in the morning, because it is. You haven't ruined your palate. You haven't put stuff in it. You haven't done anything else. Your palate's clean and just delightful. Hello, TK.
Pete,
How are you?
I'm very well.
That's good. Just got told to get on with it, so let's get on with
I
it.
feel as I've just been scalded.
We're going to start tonight with some fizz.
Launch into champagne.
Yeah, why not? So this is...
I do love champagne.
Yeah, so it's... Look, I get asked the question, like, what's the one... If you had to choose one wine for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Yeah, right.
And I kind of rotate between champagne and probably Chardonnay, but see, with Chardonnay you can make champagne, so really if I just say Chardonnay then I'm fine. But I think that overall for me, like for most people, champagne is about celebration.
Yeah.
Like you hear the cork pop, which we should never do that, but if you do hear
Isn't
a cork
that
pop,
funny? I've said that to so many people and they're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
about not letting the cork pop.
Yeah. But that was like, if in my days working in the kitchen, if you heard it pop,
Yeah.
the GM would be like, who the fuck
Yeah,
is
who did that? Exactly, yeah. It's like, you don't want to hear that. But that sound is reminiscent of celebrations of whatever
Yeah.
kind, small, large, whatever.
Pop the cork.
I'm a big believer, and I think we were talking about this before, it's like opening great bottles at inappropriate times is just a wonderful way to live. And for me, champagne, and people ask me when's the best time to drink champagne, the answer is first thing in the morning, because it is. You haven't ruined your palate, you haven't put stuff in it, you haven't done anything else, your palate's clean and just delightful. So start with champagne, then have other things. I don't know why you're smiling at me like that, and I feel like we're going to have to cut that out. So, Jesus.
Do you guys need a minute? Or?
No, I'm good.
I think we're okay now. We'll come back. But it is. And, I think that the other thing is that a lot of people's experience with champagne is just fairly simple. Like they know a couple of the big brands. It's just, there's nothing wrong with big brands. Don't get me wrong. Time and a place for everything. But sometimes if you just see one thing, the myriad of champagne, the world of champagne is unbelievably diverse. But in Australia, we've only really seen a lot of the big names for a long time. That's changed a lot in the last 15, 20 years. We've got great people bringing in excellent wine, particularly more what we call grower producers. So grower champagnes where the people actually grow the champagne and then make it. Historically speaking, champagne is more of a negociant model where basically they'll just buy the grapes from the vineyard growers. So,
right.
Yeah.
They just say, I want all the grapes from
Correct. They'll
Epinay.
say, I need 10 tons of Chardonnay from Epinay, go and find it. Someone will go and secure those contracts. A lot of these contracts are long, like very long contracts, 20, 30, 50 years.
So some of the houses that you see on the label don't even have a vineyard.
A lot of them don't. A lot of them don't.
Right?
A lot of them don't. Well, not own any, but they don't own anywhere near enough to
Is that the
produce
same-
the amount of wine that they need.
Is that the same with wine?
No.
Not just...
No. Well, yes, it
But
does
it's
happen
not,
in
it's
wine.
not as common as champagne.
In Australia, it's fairly common. Europe, not as much. Not at certain levels, I suppose. It's very hard to get into wine and just buy a vineyard. You've got to get some runs on the board. You've got to get some dollars coming in. So a lot of people will start by buying fruit, making the wine, selling the wine, and then build up to a point where they buy a vineyard. So because vineyards are very, very expensive, particularly in Australia, particularly in premium areas. So you need to sort of, get your feet under the table, so to speak. So yeah, it is common. And champagne probably has been the biggest proponent of that across the world for a very, very long time. To put a line here though, it doesn't mean that something's better or worse. Like a lot of people will hang their hat on grower champagne going, it's the greatest thing ever. And it's like, yeah, it can be. It can be really delicious, but so can big brand champagne, negociant champagne, or what we call récoltant manipulant, which is the growers, and then negociant manipulant is the ones where they buy in. And there's another couple of things that we don't really see a lot of in this country either. But there is a world of champagne that I would encourage people to explore. There's so many great things out there. And, big houses, little houses, everything in between.
Because they come dry, rich, sweet, rosé.
Yep. All of the varieties.
And
so, I mean,
there's some great Australian sparkling.
incredible Australian sparkling.
Really good stuff.
Great producers, particularly coming out of the cool climates like Tassie. Adelaide Hills has got some great producers as well. Deviation Road and Adelaide Hills, love their wines.
Who are some of there's one company that won one of the
Aris won
right.
best sparkling wine
And that's a
in the world with
fucking cracker, right?
I'm just trying to think what vintage it was. I think it was either the 14 or might have even been the 13. So it's a late disgorged wine. So that wine sits on lees. So the yeast cells for 8 to 10 years. Might even be longer. It might be 12 years. And those wines.
That's what gives it that really richness, the creaminess,
that toasty, autolytic
brioche,
character, that brioche bakery kind of smell. So Ed Carr is probably he is Australia's premium sparkling winemaker. So he makes that wine. So the EJ Carr is their late disgorged version, and it is extremely interesting wine to drink. Again, with that developed sort of thing. But yeah, it blew away everyone. About probably it was when we opened here, so it's probably 4 or 5 years ago. That wine was kind of coming to the end of its release, and then it won this crazy award, and everyone lost their mind over it. So, yeah, incredible. There is still lots of great Australian sparkling wine. Don't get me wrong, but it's always nice to have that reference point for champagne. So, you mentioned before the different styles, and really you look down a wine list. Normally, you've got some sparkling, you've got non-vintage, and then multi-vintage, which is basically specific vintages put together. Non-vintage is a lot more vintages and a lot of reserve wines, because champagne, they keep reserve wines to add in to sort of maintain this house style. And then you've got Blanc de Blanc, which is the one that everyone in Australia sort of gravitates towards for some reason, which is white of whites. So basically it's all white grapes. So in Champagne, there are really 3 permitted varieties. There's 7 technically, but we only really ever see 3, which is Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Meunier. So 1 white grape and 2 black grapes. So how is the wine still clear? Because the juice doesn't spend any time with the skins.
Yeah,
that's right. So you've got Blanc de Blanc, you've also got Blanc de Noir, which is what we're going to taste tonight. So this is a wine made completely of black grapes, which is just, I love Blanc de Noir. It's sort of almost I don't want to say poor cousin, but it gets overlooked because Blanc de Blanc is kind of the showstopper. And there's a few brands that have really dominated that here.
And I had never had Blanc de Noir, and I was always a bit fearful of it, because when you're buying French champagne, it's not cheap, right?
No.
So I get a bit nervous about missing on it.
Yeah.
But unashamable shout out to Market Wine Store here. Damien implemented this program where you fill out this form online just with things that you like.
Yep.
And there's a multitude, there's about 15 questions, and it basically, the AI component on the back end
points you in a certain direction.
Well, it generates a list.
Yep. Okay.
And for me, I said I want 6 bottles of wine a month. This is my budget.
Yeah.
And I don't mind if the 6 turn into 3 because there's 1 expensive bottle.
Sure.
But that's my budget.
Yep.
And one of these came in.
Ah, okay.
And one Sunday afternoon, I said to my wife, why don't we have a bottle of champagne? And I said, I want to try that.
Yeah.
I would never have had it, and fuck, it was good.
Well,
it was really delicious.
Let's taste it again. So I think it is one of those things where, so this is Deveau, this is their Cuvée de Bar. So 100% black grapes made into a white sparkling wine. And as I said, a lot of people will, probably in a similar boat to you, avoid it because they don't know it.
Yeah.
But
if it was $30, I'd give it a go. But
sure.
You always get a bit nervous unless you're around somebody who's a pro like you, and go, you don't have to don't be scared of this, because this is.
But it's also why by the glass programs are so important in restaurants, because like you commit
to
have
a
glass,
go then, 100%.
You're not going to commit to a bottle.
No.
And that's a great way to do it. It's also why a lot of restaurants are moving to half glasses of things for the same thing. So it's like, I can go out for dinner, I can have 2 glasses of wine officially, but I'm actually having 4 different tastes of wine.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the small, medium, and large. I think it's a cracker.
The large one is the bit that throws me. I actually had some glasses etched recently, and the question was, where do you want the pour line? I'm like, well, what do you mean? It's 150. That's where a Plimsoll line is. It's 150. They're like, don't you want large glasses? I'm like, what do you mean? And it's like, what's a large glass? Just have a second glass. It's like, no, there's the 250ml pours. I didn't realise it was as common as what it actually is.
Our strike rate here, I reckon it's 70%.
We'll go to large?
We'll go to large.
So are you 150, 250?
I think it's 250, yeah.
And mate,
it's a lot of wine, but it's amazing the uptake on it. Like Luke Stringer runs around the restaurant clicking his heels together because he's like, this is my fucking idea, and how good is it? And everyone wants a large glass.
Yeah. I think one of the things that
drink drink's gone up
20%. So that's the issue. I think that a lot of people, and most winemakers, when they come, particularly from outside of Australia, or only from outside of Australia, will always because the question here was, what's the alcohol? And they're like, why? Who cares? And it's like, well, I care because I can only have one glass.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. But one glass isn't 150 ml. One standard glass of wine, from an alcohol perspective, is 100 ml. So just for
So a
those
glass of
playing at home,
Wild Duck Creek's.
at 17.5% alcohol, yeah, probably a little bit more than one standard drink.
Why you munt it after
And that's
one
the thing.
glass.
So it's like I'm going out for one glass. Yeah, I want the biggest glass possible, but yeah, it doesn't necessarily always work out. So
It's like when you go to the doctor, how many standard drinks do you have every week? And I just look at
3.
my doctor and I go, yeah, 3. And he
Yeah.
goes, 10. And I'm like, I never said 10. He goes, you're the same as me.
yeah, exactly. We're going to put 10 because then
Yeah.
then the cops don't get caught.
There's
So
plenty of ice in the glass when I had the whiskey.
that's how it works. All right, so this is the sound we want.
Oh,
It's probably a little more aggressive than I intended, to be
quite
honest.
violence, wasn't it?
But there is. There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's heaps
So it's more of a
pressure.
it's more of a fizz than a
Pop.
pop.
You don't
Yeah.
really want the pop because the pop releasing the gas aggressively, all that does is literally release the gas. So basically, we've got undissolved CO2 in this wine, and we want to keep that because we want the wine to be effervescent. That's what the bubbles are there for. Corey gets a big glass because he's a big boy.
This is like the glass layout at Fire in Chicago.
Yeah, multiple.
Multiple different glasses for the same wine.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are we looking for here?
Well, I mean, so we're looking at 100% Pinot Noir. This doesn't have any Meunier in there at all. That's the other grape variety that can be used. So
It fucks with my head the fact that that's made out of red
Black
grapes or black grapes, and
Yeah.
there's no colour. It's
I
a
had-
little bit of blush. But
there is
it's not-
a little bit of color in there. It looks a little bit darker, but not over the top. What's nice about this is it's fizzing, but it's not aggressive. It's quite a delicate mousse, is the way that I would explain that by what it looks like in the glass. But the other thing is it's super fine bubbles.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the big difference when you're looking at great champagne versus good sparkling wine, is that the bubbles are always going to be finer. And that's a length of time thing. There's a combination of things as to what that actually is. But the other thing is when you're looking at things like Prosecco or some sparkling wines made in this country or in other countries, that they use a different method altogether, which is basically like a giant soda stream. So
Yeah, right.
it's not fermented. The secondary fermentation doesn't happen in bottle. They just carbonate it, force carbonate
Gotcha.
it. So different thing. So with wines like this, being a red grape or black grape, we want to see those red fruited characters come through. Like with Blanc de Blanc, for example, you're seeing more of that really green apple, crisp, sort of high tone sort of stuff. Generally with Pinot Noir, dominant sparkling wines, you're going to be looking at things like that are red fruited. Sometimes you get a little bit more of that gamey, mushroomy thing that you can get in Pinot as well. Normally if there's Pinot Meunier and then you get that as well, that elevates it. But you're looking for purity of red fruit, really, more than anything else. And then obviously there is that brioche sort of character in here. So if you sort of put those things together from a descriptive point of view, we're going to talk about danishes, we're going to talk about cherry danishes, we're going to talk about those kind of things to sort of bring it more specific. And you can you put those things together, you're like, oh, well, that makes sense because there's that autolytic character that's going to give you that yeasty brioche bakery kind of smell. You've got the red fruits there that are going to be like cherries for Pinot Noir. You're going to have cherries, strawberries, raspberries, that kind of thing. That's in there. So does this smell like a Danish, a cherry Danish? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Could be psychosomatic in there as well, but
And this label has in my mind has come into Australia really hard and well.
yeah.
Am I right in saying that Ramsay's pouring this in all of his establishments at the
DeVoe, I
moment?
believe so. Yeah, they've got a really good relationship with him for a long period of time. And DeVoe it's one of the, again, it's a brand that's been around for a long time, but in Australia it's kind of been not undercooked, but hasn't really taken off, I
Yeah.
suppose. And that's also because of volume. Who's selling it?
They're
where
not floor
selling it, that
stacked
kind of
at Dan's
You're
either.
not going to you're not going to find that in that kind of a place, which is fine. That's the thing. It's just a different way. And that's the other thing I would always suggest to people as well. If you want to drink great champagne, you've got to get out of the big boxes because they may not have the ability to source certain things. You're not going to see the full world. You'll see what they want you to see.
How much do you need to spend on a bottle of champagne? A good bottle.
In retail?
Yeah.
I
Go to a bottle shop.
I wouldn't spend over $100.
Yeah, right.
I don't think you need to.
So you can get a cracking bottle
For a non-vintage or multi-vintage
Yeah.
wine, yeah, you can get a really decent glass of wine, bottle of wine for under $100.
And why is champagne rosé so much more expensive than champagne?
There's a combination of things, depending on how they're making the wine. So if they're using red wine to add rather than so basically what in champagne in particular, they often just use still red wine that's made like Pinot Noir. It gets made and used as an addition. Making that still red wine in Champagne is horrendously expensive.
Right.
Very, very expensive. There's Bollinger actually make a couple of still red wines from some of their single vineyards that they use for additions, and they are phenomenally, like, way out of whack. And they're really interesting wines, but they come from probably my two favourite villages in Champagne, which is Boozy and Dizzy. And it's like, which one's which one comes first, which one's comes second. But rosé it's a longer process, it's a harder process potentially. But yeah, rosé is certainly, it's a good question. I mean, if you look at like the prestige cuvée, something like Cristal, you look at Cristal Rosé, it's almost twice the price. So maybe not. I'm probably going to get corrected on that one, but there is a significant jump there for the rosé. It's also about they don't make as much as well. But yeah, rosé in general, and rosé Champagne has taken a big leap in the last 20 years, 25 years as well. Again, people think of rosé being sweet, table wine or sparkling wine. It's clearly not.
No.
Same with this wine is bone dry.
Yeah.
It sort of almost hurts a little bit in a good way, and that's what Champagne should be. Champagne, for me, should be that thing you have that just gets your taste buds working, gets you salivating.
Yeah.
So you need high acid. If it's going to get that, this is one of the highest regions in the world to make wine in terms of latitude.
It's always a great way to start a dinner, right?
Yeah, or breakfast.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like if you start with this, and often people will start with it and then move on to something else. But I encourage people, have another bottle of champagne with your entree. Have another bottle of champagne, not on your own, but I mean, you can. If you're Winston Churchill, you can. But there is something really lovely about doing food and wine matching all the way through with champagne only or with sparkling wine, because it gives you this. There's acid there, which we want for food and wine matching anyway. But it's a fun night, because you basically every time you open a new bottle, it's a new celebration, and so you can go through and you can do this, and it's really intriguing when I see this. I see people doing that and sitting down, having a meal and drinking champagne all the way through it. Like, I didn't know you could do that. It's like, you can do anything you want. That's the whole point. Those rules of it's before only. I've got an old friend of mine. She used to always finish with champagne. That was her last thing, because she said it was her sorbet. So she'd have a glass of sorbet to finish the meal before she moved on. Because it was all about that really cleansing sort of. She should also have oysters a lot of the time as well, which is always weird at the end. Like dessert, just a dozen oysters and a glass of champagne. It's like, okay, not for me, but I get it. But yeah, anyway.
And if you were to choose your favourite bottle of champagne,
Singular bottle?
Yeah. We're out for dinner. I'm like, go and pick your favourite. What are we drinking? No food. We're just sitting down.
That's a really good question. There's a couple of wines in particular that I have, again, memories with. So I like those wines always. I think the older I get, the more I look towards much drier, almost zero dosage sort of styles that are really quite driven. I think there's a couple. If I'm sitting at dinner and I'm just going to have that to start without anything else, honestly, my go-to is more often than not Pile Castamont Rosé.
Yeah,
that's just for me. It just ticks all the boxes.
What is it about that wine that spins your wheels?
Again, maybe it's something that I had some pretty good experiences early on. Tasted some of the wines, some of the older wines that maybe again sort of got me interested about it. But it's just so consistently bloody delicious. It's just got that. It's just moreish. You don't sit there after a couple of glasses and go, well, that's enough. Like, the acid's still there.
The Bill Cart's got one. Is it called the Elizabeth?
There's Cuvée Elizabeth and Nicolas Francois. So they're two prestige.
The Elizabeth we had last time I came in here with a few friends for my birthday. Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's a brand that kind of it sort of sits on a lot of wine lists, and then it's always there. So that means it's selling. I know certainly for some of our restaurants, it's just consistent.
Yeah.
It's just like, yep, another one, yep, another one, yep, another one. So that's probably my first go-to at that kind of style. The other one that I really like is Pierre Lamandier from Vertu. So right down the king of, what do they call him? The monk of Vertu. He's a very fastidious winemaker, really turned that part of Champagne around, him and a few others, really concentrating on their growers, so really concentrating on great quality vineyards. Because the history in Champagne with how they treated their vineyards was really poor. There's this, the history of fertilizer. We use that term very, very loosely in Champagne. It was basically city rubbish. They just put on the vineyards, and so that means that you're never going to get great quality fruit. So Lamondier and a few others really sort of push this idea of looking after the vineyard, which is what's happening in the rest of the wine world everywhere. The idea of sustainability, the idea of soil health, really making sure. I was talking to a winemaker yesterday, Louis Schofield, who's a great winemaker from South Australia, and his thing is all about the soil. So he said this is a regenerative vineyard, and one of my team was like, what does that mean? And basically they got in there and they just basically redid the soil. So planted cover crops, did a couple of years of really getting some, nitrogen back into the soil, getting life back into the soil. If you're turning over soil in a vineyard, there's no life in there. There's no bugs. There's no worms, that kind of stuff. It's probably not in a great spot. It's not healthy. So that's a big part of it, and that's exactly what Pierre Lamondier was doing as well in terms of getting the vineyards right, because you can't make great wine without great grapes, and great grapes have to have good soil. Simple as that. It doesn't have to, actually, I'll qualify that. It doesn't have to be like rich soil, but it needs to be healthy. Yeah. So, because if you look at some of the great regions of the world, like the Mosul in Germany, Champagne, there's hardly any soil. It's just rocks. Yeah. So it's not about having 3 meters of topsoil, because grapes hate that. They like to struggle, and they're better. You get better quality fruit when the vines have had to work hard.
It always baffles me, like some of the great wine regions of the world, including some of our own here, like in the Barossa, depending on what time of year you go down there. It's so fucking dry and it's desolate, and it's like, it's like it sometimes feels as though everything's dead.
Yeah, well, they're dormant,
and then suddenly they turn around and go, "It's a fucking cracking year," and it's like, what?
Yeah, and it's about timing. That's the thing. I mean, friends are like, "Oh, we're going to get married in the vineyard, so we're going to get married in August. It's going to be beautiful." I'm like, "There's not a vineyard in August. It's sticks.
Sticks.
It's literally sticks in the ground." So it's like, what are you?
And it's
hot
as fucking summer and freezing cold.
So it's like, what look do you want, in the photos? But often that's the thing, is people forget that grapes are a crop that grow once a year. So the grapes are produced, and then we rest, and then they grow again, and then we keep going. And it's cyclical, it's farming, and that's just how it works.
And it sucks.
It's hard.
You hope like fuck that the end product tastes as good as that.
Well, also you hope that you're actually going to get product. Because you've got birds, you've got pests, you've got hail,
everything trying to hurt you.
Everything is against you. Yeah. Absolutely everything. Don't talk to any winemaker. Don't mention the word nets to them, because they hate them putting them on, but they have to put them on to protect. In a lot of regions where small birds are a massive problem. I know at Lewin Estate, I remember their Chardonnay block 20, which is where a lot of the Lewin Art Chardonnay used to originally come from. That block, I believe historically they used to have a couple of rows of Chenin Blanc on the outside. So basically the birds, little silver eyes, would come in, and they'd only go so far in because they'd be scared of predators. So they'd only come in 1 or 2 rows and eat all that fruit. So they basically just planted Chenin on the outside rows, and like, just eat that. And I was like, that's clever. That's clever farming as far as I'm concerned.
Fucking give them what they want.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, take the Chenin, that's fine. Just leave the Chardonnay, because that's got to go into art series. Thanks very much. So, that's all of a sudden getting very expensive. So exactly. Jesus. Don't eat that Chardonnay, whatever you do. But what would you cook with this?
Oh, geez, I don't know. My head goes straight to raw seafood. I think would be delicious.
Like a tuna tartare or something like that?
Or a whitefish crudo of some description. Yeah. I like... I don't know why I'd like to see Mediterranean flavours rather than Asian flavours with it, like blood orange or fennel, swordfish, crudo, something like that would be really delicious, I think. Even something Sicilian, there's this really cool, it's nearly like a nummus that they do it with orange juice.
Right.
It's pretty, and they sometimes do it with prawns as well. Oh. It's pretty fucking yum.
Yeah, right.
Something like that would go really good with that. But I like the simplicity of a really, really clean crudo, maybe some shaved fennel, some blood orange would go really nice with that.
I agree 100%.
Maybe some fried, there's Lilliput capers, the really tiny French ones, and a bit of salt, bit of texture, but we're going to go really nice with that.
I tend to always lean towards game with this stuff as well. So, again, maybe with Blanc de Noir in general, I would. This one, I think you've nailed it. I think that seafood thing's probably going to be better. But honestly, I would I'm trying to think of if I was to use a small bird of some kind, a quail, what's it going to be?
What about tortelloni would be nice with
Yeah,
that? Like
pretty good.
The traditional tortellonis, or tortellini, I should say, that the Italians do is got it's done with mortadella
Yeah.
and a little bit of pork meat.
Yeah.
And
Perfect.
they do it with, they call it imbrolo, which is in chicken stock.
Yep.
So it's really soupy and brothy. Or in panna, which is in cream,
Yep.
with a little bit of Parmesan cheese right at the very end.
Yeah.
But only enough to coat the pasta and just get,
Right.
so the little tortellonis that are shaped like a belly button, they pick up just a tiny bit of
touch
cream.
of
So
that.
there really should be no cream on the plate.
Yeah, okay.
But it's just enough for that, the texture of the pasta to capture some of that cream and
then
richness. And you basically eat it with a fork. and
help
there's
you
no-
get it in your mouth.
yeah. And I think about that and I go, that'd work. And that probably lends itself more towards your gamey
Yeah.
sort of stuff, because proper mortadella should be made with donkey as well. So it's
Is
like
it
a bit,
donkey? I thought it was horse.
depending
Get
who
what
you're
you
speaking
get.
to. Yeah.
Near enough, good enough.
Throw a couple of olives in there and you're fine.
Don't mention Shrek and everything's going to be okay. I think I love mortadella like more than I should.
Yeah, that's going to bother me now. I'm sure it's donkey.
That's awesome if it is.
Let's do it.
Would you eat donkey mortadella, Corey? Yes.
Yes, I would. Sorry, I had to turn my mic back on. Yeah, I would absolutely. We had turtle in Japan. That was
Really?
yeah. It was actually
River turtle.
it was disgusting.
It was not. It was delicious.
Was it muddy?
Yeah, it was delicious.
It wasn't muddy. It was the thought of it.
No one can see
was
Corey's
quite
face,
funny.
but the face that you were pulling right now looks like I've just extracted a tooth.
It was quite funny watching Eliza trying to chew it and swallow it as well. I was fucking pissing myself laughing.
I don't know if I could do turtle for some reason. I've done lots of other things.
They were very cagey
Yeah.
about telling us. So like, oh, the next course is it's
Just
river,
eat it.
river turtle, and it came in this little pot and it had like a dumpling in it.
Yeah,
Right, so it could have been anything though.
I will eat anything once. But I was just thinking about this. It almost reminds me,
About the wine.
yeah,
Yeah.
about like what to eat with it.
Yeah.
When I lived in London, I used to go to this whiskey bar called the Big Easy, and they used to serve this like cup you could buy for £20, and it would have thick cut bits of crispy maple bacon.
Yeah, I'm not hearing a negative at this point in time.
No, and like there was
God,
there
a
was
cup.
Big
Yeah.
tattoo.
What do you mean?
it was
Cup.
like like think about when you go to
Like a hot chip cup.
like a bistro and you get a hot chip cup.
Yeah.
And it was loaded with
Bistro, are you going and getting hot chips?
thick bit
Oh,
of
this fucking bistro.
Bacon.
like thick bits of maple bacon, and
What is it, like a little bar snack?
yeah, and like that's what you drink with your whiskey. That I could have with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
be
a good one.
nice.
The thing
Maple
is,
bacon and
particularly with the
Champagne. Sign me up for that fucking show.
I tell you-
Maple
Jesus
bacon.
Christ.
I mean, champagne is one of those things where some of the matching for champagne in general is ludicrous and awesome.
Yeah.
I did a tasting a couple of months ago for a friend's birthday in Brisbane. Kat Feeney, who's on ABC Radio, and she had a group of friends around because her plan is to go to Champagne in a couple of years for a big birthday. So she wanted to sort of get her team sort of excited about it. So we did this tasting. We looked at 6 wines, I think 5 wines, on a Friday night for her birthday, and had a great time. But the previous week we'd talked about champagne on radio. We talked about champagne and chips, either hot chips or potato like crisps. And so the catering that like before they were having dinner and it was ridiculous. The setup was so good. I had to head off, but I'm sure they had a great night. But we had potato chips, and when I did it with Kat on air, I gave her like a chili potato chip and then just a regular potato chip and stuff, right? And it blows people's minds. If you have a delicious salty potato chip, crispy as hell, with pretty decent quality champagne, it will work. The other thing you can then just as you sort of slightly go up the champagne scale, you just get more ridiculous. So, I've seen people and have had the pleasure of having Krug, Grand Cuvée, with hot chips, with parmesan and truffle.
No.
Oh,
Yes.
dear Lord. It is one of those things that you just like, this is excessive and I want all of it. It's just, it's really cool. And it's it
For
is,
those who don't know what Krug is, it's a
yeah, like it's a
$600 bottle of champagne.
benchmark bottle of wine, an incredible history. And And I think it might have been Olivia Krug that
It's
told
about
me
as
to do.
it's about as powerful as a T-bone steak.
It's not exactly light and
It's a
delicate.
fucking
It's a monster
monster,
of wine, but
yeah.
in a good way.
Yeah,
it's
great.
It's not big and blousy either. It's precise, but it's just there's an intensity to that is not like a lot of other things. But Krug and hot chips and truffles that's one of the better nights.
I want to be
out.
just like you when I grow up.
Man. I haven't done it a lot. I can tell you that. I haven't had Krug for a long time.
Sorry if I missed it. But what was the location? What was the view while you were eating all this?
I've done it a couple of times.
It's probably a milk crate of.
Yeah, so one of them was definitely in the back
Really?
of a restaurant, 100%.
In my mind, I'm imagining you at like a beach or
No, absolutely not. Me at a beach? Well, I've made a mistake if I'm on a beach.
sitting down there, like just having dinner or something.
Yeah.
Big blanket.
No, this is the thing where like that kind of stuff.
Because
you need to
location
take
is
in-
everything.
It's not. That's incorrect.
is.
It's not. It's part of it.
It's a big chunk.
No, I think it's an equal part.
Where's my camera?
Yeah, no,
Peter?
there's a reason why you don't have it. No, I know what you mean. It is, and obviously, coming from your industry, location is 100% everything. Our industry, when it comes to restaurants, location is everything. But when it comes to drinking great wine, you can drink it in the bath and have a great time. Like it doesn't. The location for me, again, for great wine, the more you take the piss out of it, the more you're going to enjoy it because you take away the bullshit. It's just like I'm just sitting in my undies on the couch with
Glass of
kettle chips and a glass of Krug. That's a pretty fucking good way to end a week as far as I'm concerned. So, and the other thing is like, you try these things and you're like, you don't expect them to work,
Yeah.
and then when they do, it's just like, what is happening right now? I'm just going back to, I mentioned Olivia Krug a second ago, just sort of name dropping, but I did a couple of events with him a few years ago, a long time ago actually now, but one of the things he's passionate about hot chips and Krug, but he's also a big fan of sushi with that style of that bigger, powerful, muscular style of champagne and sashimi in general. It handles it really well because again, we're coming in, the high acid style of wine gets dissipated almost instantly because you're putting a very rich, particularly something like tuna or mackerel or something with a lot of flavor. It just comes in and cleanses off the palate. So you get to taste the fish every single time. So it's just, it's one of those things. That's why champagne is so good for food and wine matching. But again, I encourage people to try these things.
Yeah.
And you don't have to spend $1 million.
No.
But like, Sunday afternoon, you're sitting there and you're trying to get a bit motivated, or Saturday afternoon, just open a packet of kettle chips and get a decent bottle of champagne and just sit down and have a good
Reset your
bloody
life.
time. Exactly. That's what great wine should be about.
I agree.
So the location always comes into that. Don't get me wrong, but it's part of it. It's that experiential thing where it's place, people, product, it's everything all together. If it was just one, if one of those things is missing, it's not going to be the same. So for me, it's about.
Fair enough.
And you're not wrong, but you're wrong. You're not.
Like I'm thinking like when you say sitting there by yourself,
Yeah.
there's times when I want to do that, but then like that's something I'd want to share with friends.
100%. It's
Yeah.
always going to be better with someone else.
Yeah.
100%. That's wine in general, food in general. It's always better if you're sharing it.
And I like how when you're sitting around a table, everybody's got a different opinion about it.
Yeah.
Because everybody looks at things differently, right?
And taste things differently.
Everyone's taste buds are different. Everyone's experience of what they've tasted up until that point in their life is different. So, and again, when I'm doing tastings where there's a big group of people and they're all very different, and some people may not be wine people, they're my favorite people to talk to about wine because they've got no preconceived ideas. So it's like, just tell me stuff. And then it's like, well, you tell me, what do you smell? What do you taste? And you get some of the most random things as well. And I love that because it's not wrong.
No.
Unless it's wrong, but it's very rarely wrong. It's often, people be like, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. Jen does that all the time. It's like, I don't want to say it. I'm like, just tell me what you smell. And she'll say something. I'm like, 100%, that's what it is. That's just, and we've talked about it before with the kids. You get the kids to smell the wine. They'll nail it more than anyone else.
Yeah, 100%.
Because they've got no preconceived ideas. They haven't seen all the wank that comes with wine yet. So they're not.
I feel bad that my 11-year-old knows the difference between rye whiskey, a bourbon, and a scotch.
No, I think that's just clever. I mean, not in terms of flavour, though.
It's frowned upon by the principal, apparently.
In terms of flavour? Yeah. Maybe don't answer that. Yeah, exactly right.
After that episode, I bought a bottle of Riesling, and I got my 5-year-old daughter to smell it, and I was like, I put it under her nose and I said, "Smell it, don't think, just tell me what you smell." And she goes, "Lemon juice."
Oh God, she's a rock star. Sign her up.
You're fired.
It's gonna get very expensive for you very soon. But yeah, and that's the thing is,
So good. I love doing that.
Yeah, I love doing that. I love seeing that happen. And again, when you're in wineries and you're having lunch with families in vineyards or whatever it may be, and there's little kids running around and they're coming up and they're doing that. I love that stuff. I think that's awesome. That's what it should be about. So yeah, in that case, location does matter.
Yeah. And I remember you telling me, sorry, getting very sentimental here, but when you told me that the vintage is like a season put into a jar or a bottle or however you phrase
It's such a great analogy.
Really, really stuck with me. And like I've viewed wine very differently now. And like when I'm looking for wine, I don't know what I'm looking for, but I'm more thorough with my search. Like I'm just looking around for things a little bit more rather than just going in and buying the 2 for $40.
Or buying the same thing you had last week.
Exactly.
Which you didn't mind, so you go back and get that. But the thing as well, like
I drank a bottle of Jim Barry last night.
No, Riesling?
Yeah.
Great wine.
Yeah, it was nice.
Love the boys. They're doing a great job.
It was nice.
So, and the girls. Sorry, Olivia. She's about to go on maternity leave. But I think that's, again, those wines, and they're probably, depending on which Riesling you were drinking, they're probably in the 2 for 20, 2 for 40, bucket potentially as well, or not far off it. And, again, we talk about like this wine. This is champagne. This is delicious champagne. I would drink a bucket of this in front of me.
Okay.
This in the shop is $85.
Yeah, fantastic.
So it's like you don't have to go crazy. I get it, $85 is a lot of wine. When I'm telling you to have this on a Tuesday night,
No,
it's
but for a birthday.
for a birthday,
But the last thing I need, I'm not a materialistic guy, right? And the last thing I need is more shit in my house. Like, and I say this with all the love in the world from my family, but my wife and I made a commitment to.
I'm nervous about what's about to
No,
come out of your
we
mouth.
made a commitment to ourselves a few years ago that instead of going to buy ourselves a Christmas gift, we either need to buy an experience.
Yeah.
So, go out for dinner.
Yeah.
An experience, something to do together for just Melissa and myself, or let's get a cracking bottle of champagne and drink it at breakfast time on Christmas Day.
Yes.
And that's what we've done for the last 6 or 7 years,
I encourage
and
it.
it's so much fun.
Absolutely.
Because we start talking about it in November.
Yeah.
Going, what are we going to have? How big are we going to go? And it's like, well, how much are we going to spend on me for my Christmas present? How much are we going to... Let's halve that, and we're going to drink one of the greatest wines in the history of the universe.
Absolutely. I mean, we did it.
Smuggling it up to Hayman Island and drinking it around the pools just as much. It's a bit of fun as well.
And there's that risk element that comes in there. But, I mean, we did that this year. Again, glass of champagne at breakfast, breakfast at home, open the presents, and then down to the beach, quick swim, back, champagne starts again. You know, and it's like that's where champagne works really, really well. But it's not the only place.
No.
That's the thing. And as I said, for me, it's about encouraging people to explore, the world of champagne. There's just so many different things that you can do. There's a new venue opening up in Brisbane. It's got to be close, called Winifred's, which they're claiming to have like something like 10,000 bottles of all grower champaign in there.
Jesus
And I'm
Christ, whereabouts is it?
It's in Arthur Street. Yeah, in the Valley. So cool little fit out. It looks like it's nearly finished, but I'd be interested to see how that works out. But
It'd be unusual for a restaurant to open that's not being opened by your group.
we're good for the minute, so we've got another one already happening. So, but it's good to see that kind of stuff happening as well.
That's big balls. I'm impressed with people wanting to have a go and do something different rather than just doing the norm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that again, with more places open up, you've got great venues now that because of Corrigan, because Corrigan's a pouring system that
Corrigan List here works so well.
Keeps wine preserved well, and they now have Corrigan Sparkling, so it keeps the pressure in the wine as well.
How's this for a fun fact? That our Corrigan List here was so successful that now our Corrigan List, there's no Corrigans actively being used because we're moving the wine every 2 days.
Exactly.
And it's like, if that's not a measure of great success by just sticking to it, because... And you're probably the guy that implemented it. And you go, fucking hell, like, how many glasses of $25 Chardonnay are we going to sell today?
Yeah.
And then you just got to believe and keep chipping away, and now suddenly people go, well, that's where I can go and have a great glass of champagne. I don't want to spend $200 on a bottle, but I'm happy to spend good money on a glass.
And also,
be satisfied.
If I'm only having one glass, I want it to be good.
Yep.
If I'm driving, I don't want to have a shitty glass of wine. I want to have a really good glass of wine.
Because of our location here in the Maroochydore CBD, we get a lot of single corporates. I'm looking at the bar here. There's a few of them sitting at the bar.
Us,
But what a great opportunity to sit down. And I was one in Brisbane last week. I sat down and just had 1 or 2 great glasses of wine.
Yeah. And
I didn't have a bottle in me. I wanted to have an early night, a big day the next day.
Yeah.
I think the Corrigan List is definitely worthwhile having a crack at if you're opening a venue.
I
or
would-
even if you've got a venue now, test the water.
Absolutely, because there's almost zero chance of it not working.
Yeah.
Because you're not wasting wine. If you
Yep.
do everything properly, the wine, you've got so much time to sell the wine.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think, with sparkling as well, it means you can sell great sparkling. So
I had a sparkling undercover when I was in the States.
Yeah.
Egley,
yeah, absolutely.
which I think it was like $55, which is a lot of money,
Yeah.
especially with the exchange rate at the
but
moment.
that's kind of what that wine
I've
should be.
never in my life seen Egley by the glass.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, is that we, as operators now, with the risk of waste being taken away, that's the reason why you won't open great bottles of wine, right? Because am I going to sell it or not? And if you've taken that out of the picture, then it's like, well, what do we have to lose?
Yeah.
Let's give it a crack. And we tried this. We tried it, different restaurants, we did different things, we pulled different levers and sort of have a crack at different bits and pieces. But, now I'm like trying to find the ceiling for Coravin. It's like, what are people happy to pay? For the right wine, are people happy to get to the $100 mark? Probably. I know there's a couple of restaurants in Brisbane where they're up towards 150.
Yeah,
glasses
5
of
or
wine.
6. Like,
Yeah.
what are you pouring for that?
You're probably pouring Burgundy.
Yeah, I got it for us on the Sunshine Coast to sit back and I go, how many people can know and appreciate Burgundy enough to spend that?
Yep.
I think we'd probably still be at a good Australian Pinot, Chardonnay, Shiraz.
I was gonna say,
and
what-
you'd probably be less risky.
For here, I'd
But
be starting with a brand.
You're a little bit more, there's a little bit bigger market
Yeah.
in the cities for
Absolutely.
that. I reckon you probably fucking do it.
Oh, I think that, again, it's like the market will tell you, we've talked about this before, they'll tell you what they'll
Yeah.
spend. But if you don't have it on there,
Because I look at, in my mathematical head, I go, how many glasses to cover the cost?
yep,
And once the cost is covered, you're neutral.
yep.
Then you got to figure out, is it a winner or is the risk too great? I reckon you're a chance to be able to do that in your venues.
I think, yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, for the right wine at the right time as well.
Yep.
So what that means is, I'm not going to do a 25-year-old, Riesling in the middle of winter.
No.
But I might do a big old Shiraz
Yeah.
with a big brand on it that people are familiar with, comfortable with,
Crackenberg.
know that,
Yeah.
have the pedigree. I think that, again, it's that thing we talk about, people wanting to, the barrier to entry, if the cost is high, it's going to slow people down. But the barrier to entry for let's say a bottle of Hill of Grace on a wine list, you've got a great wine that's going to be, upwards of $1,500 more than likely on a wine list, if not more. But you can get a really great glass of it for $200. Are you happy to do that? Some people will be. I've seen it. We tried it. Oh my God, 20-something years ago. We tried it with Dom.
I've done Dom, I've done Cristal, and I've done
Same.
Grange.
Yeah.
We did back in the
Out of those three, do you remember which one was the better result?
It was I'd be guessing, mate. We
For me,
did.
if I did those three, and I've done two of those three and done Hill of Grace before. I think Cristal wins.
We did Cristal and lobster chowder
Yeah.
for $100. So a
Yeah,
glass of Cristal, lobster
Lobster
chowder, $100. And I was like, just sell 5. Just got to sell 5.
Yeah.
Just got to sell 5.
Yeah.
And we sold the 5. I can't remember. But Dom must have worked because we did it more than once. And
Yeah.
we'd never have done it again.
Yeah.
We did Grange and Wagyu.
Yep.
And that was always
That's going to work.
that was all back pre GFC when
Yeah.
the Sunshine
Corporate
Coast,
Amex and-
like the property developers around here were just throwing money left, right,
Yeah.
and centre.
Yeah.
That was an easy sell.
I think also as well, like we were talking about, again, that time, Coravin didn't exist.
No,
There was a couple of
Le
products.
Vert de Vin.
Le Vert de Vin was around, and then since then,
they're about the same size as this fucking table.
they're
It's like
huge.
this.
Yeah. And then people were like losing eyes, because the gas was so high and the closures were horrendous. And I mean, people that had them, I remember we might have said this before, but you got there's holes in the roof
Yeah.
from most of the restaurants that have had them. You got the Enematics, they're great units as well. Again, just a little bit more expensive and a little bit more, I suppose, bulky than, say, Coravin, for example, but similar, do the same thing.
Yeah.
And, I remember there's a few places that opened up, something in Brisbane, where you could go and you can get your little card and you put your card in, you can get a little taste of that, taste of that, taste of
they're
that. I think they're
everywhere in
still
the
around.
States,
So, yeah.
There's one place in America that we went to. There's a fantastic bar. They had a restaurant downstairs, very, very good bar, rooftop bar as well. But that restaurant downstairs would have had 150 wines, all under
enigmatic or
yeah. Well, I think it was emblematic. Yeah,
Yeah.
all glass front.
Yeah.
Walk up, charge a card.
Yeah.
Tap it,
yeah.
get a glass of.
I don't know.
Shadow you can.
Again, I think it's a great concept. And again, going back to that idea of if people are having half glasses, like some of our restaurants, we do half glasses, full glasses, half bottles, because it's just Coravin. So it's like, yeah, if you want a half bottle of that, we can do that. Anything by the glass, you
I
can have
don't
a half
know
bottle.
why I don't like it.
The carafe?
No, I didn't. No, I don't like the mixture of 300 different wines by the glass. I find it.
Oh, I'm talking about sizes rather than volume.
Yeah. But for me, what I'm saying is, even if it's wine by the glass, if I go for lunch or dinner with friends, I get way more enjoyment out of drinking a bottle, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
I think it's because I want to sit down and talk about it.
Yeah.
And enjoy it rather than go, what did you have? Oh, I had my rosé. Here, Like,
and I suppose it depends on what it's for.
Yeah.
Like, because where we see it working is probably twos.
Yep.
There's a couple of the restaurants we get very heavy twos.
Yep.
So that's where that works really well, because people can sort of chop and change and have a bit of a play and everything else. But yeah, I agree with you. If you're getting over 4 people, it's like, just get a bottle.
Yeah.
But
And I'm like, I don't want to try 6 or 7 different
some
wines.
people do,
I
right?
know.
And that's the thing. It's just like, just want to commit. But-
And I find that my chance of a proper hangover is way more if I'm having
If you're just drinking multiple glasses.
3 or 4 different Shardies, 3 or 4 different Pinots, 3 or 4 different.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's volume in that as well, but if I'm getting on the piss, I'm getting on the piss.
Yeah.
But I find if
It's gonna happen anyway.
if I stick to Fizz, Chardonnay, and Pinot, the next day's tolerable. If I go any harder than that, then at a 50-year-old guy now, I'm sucking my thumb all day. I'm fucking hopeless.
Yeah, it's very true. The hangovers do get longer and harder. There's no doubt about it.
It's got to be an invention for that. That'll be my Flugelbinder.
The Flugelbinder from the end of the shoe, the end of the shoelace.
Yes. Need to find that.
Is that actually the name of it?
I call it that all the time.
Yeah.
Flugelbinder.
What was that? That was in like
Cocktails.
cocktail. That's right.
He's chasing his Flugelbinder.
Did you look up the mortadella as a donkey?
Yeah, it went straight to Australian sites and it's saying pork. It's
No, it's definitely. I'm certain it's definitely not pork traditionally. I thought it was horse, but it could be donkey.
they call it plony,
Plony,
pony.
pony, baloney.
Yeah,
That's actually kind of funny.
horse meat. Yeah, there's plenty in here saying it's.
Donkey.
I think horse meat was frowned upon a few years ago, so they.
I think it's been frowned upon for a lot of people, not in France and Spain.
I
but
enjoy it. I had horse meat in America, not in my last trip, but
yeah, I've had it. France and Spain, I've enjoyed there. But anyway, no horse meat. So to wrap it all up, put a little bow on it. Explore Champagne. Don't just drink the big brands.
no.
You can go for it, but I think it's nice to look outside of that
Yeah.
as well. There's so many more great options now in most bottle shops, particularly independent bottle shops. They're going to have a bigger selection.
Yep.
They can. The big boys don't. Simple as that. They just can't get access to some of the things that people want to see. But yeah, explore the world. Blanc de Blanc, Blanc de Noir, Prestige Cuvée.
And don't be scared of some of the Aussie ones. Who would you say, where would be the regions of somebody who's going to walk into a bottle shop and say, I want a good Aussie sparkling?
Tassie and Adelaide Hills.
Tassie, yeah.
Tassie and Adelaide Hills are really, that's kind of where
Like
it
you could drink,
starts, so.
you could drink Aussie sparkling from Tassie for 2 weeks and not touch the fucking
No,
size.
there's so much we don't, and it's generally pretty bloody good.
Yeah.
As I said, for me, the I like the Aris wines. I think they're really great quality at that sort of top end. They're delicious. Like the Crozer wines have always been pretty
How
solid.
good is it, Crozer? I remember my very first, when I dipped my toe into sparkling wine, I had no money. The Ninth Island sparkling.
yeah.
I think it's Chardonnay Pinot Meunier.
It's all three.
It was bloody good.
And
I thought, that was our sparkling wine for our wedding.
It was delicious.
It was really, really good.
It still is. So when that product launched in Australia, I was working for Red and White, and we all went down and did the launch in Tassie, and it was one of those things where we had so much success with that wine because the quality, the story behind it, the people who were making it, like Nat Fryer was making that wine. I think she's again an incredible sparkling winemaker from Tassie. That's a brand that
$30, $40.
less, I think. Yeah, now
It's a cracking
But
wine.
if anyone, if I would encourage everyone to seek out a couple of wines if we're going to do that.
Yep.
Belbon is one.
Oh, yeah.
So that's Nat's wines from Tassie. I love those ones. I think they're fantastic. So BELLEBONNE. Incredible wines. Love the rosé in particular. I really love that wine. It's the Deviation Road from Adelaide Hills. Kate Laurie is making exceptional wine there. Love those wines. I'm just trying to think of anything else I've tasted recently that I really liked. No. But there is plenty out there.
Yeah.
And don't be discouraged, like with Australian sparkling as well. The stuff that is probably a little bit more than maybe what you normally spend, there's a reason. You know, quality costs money when it comes, particularly with sparkling, because that money is generally going into time.
Whiskey's the same.
Yeah, and it's time. That's the thing. It's like, and that just costs money.
Yep.
So I would definitely encourage people to get out there and try as much as they can.
But I find the Aussie sparkling so approachable, but it's hard to miss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not going to miss, like, you'll pour a glass and go, I can't drink that.
No.
You might miss and go, yeah, that was good.
Well,
but
depending on the level, but yeah, I think more often than not now we're better than 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Horrible situation. But now it's like, no, there's again, older vineyards, better winemaking. There's all of these things that sort of fall into place.
Yeah.
I mean, the wines are bloody great. So.
Agree.
All right, let's go drink some champagne.
Fantastic.
All right.
Start with this bottle. Thanks, Pete.
Corey's taking care of it. Thanks, mate. See you soon.
See ya.